US versus Canada. What's the real difference when buying a home? You can buy a house in Texas for the price of a parking spot in Toronto. But price isn't the only difference. From how mortgages work to how offers are handled, there are massive differences between buying a home in Canada versus the US. And if you don't know them, you could lose money, deals, or worse, your home. Let's break it all down. Hi, my name is Daniel Bozuk. I'm the owner of Dan Lee Group here in Canada with over 30 years of experience and now with eXp Realty. I'm here to help people get a better understanding of the real estate market in Canada. Price isn't the only difference. Yes, homes are often cheaper in the US, but that doesn't tell the full story. What's more important is how the systems work. And that's where things start to get interesting. Let's go step by step. First, mortgage rules. Canada is stricter and safer. In Canada, mortgage approvals are based on the stress test, meaning you have to qualify at a rate higher than the actual rate you get. Your debt ratios must fall under specific federal rules. You can't just state income. Everything is verified. 25-year amortization is the norm unless you put 20% down. You can't walk away from a mortgage. Even if the value drops, you still owe the debt. In the US, you can still find interest-only loans, 40-year amortizations, and low or no down payment options. In some states, you can walk away from a mortgage without personal liability. Your home is the collateral. Subprime lending still exists in pockets. Mortgage interest is tax deductible. So yes, it's easier to get a mortgage in the US, but the Canadian system is built for stability, not speed. Property taxes and closing costs. Closing costs in Canada, generally 1.5% to 4% of the purchase price, including land transfer tax, legal fees, title insurance. First-time buyers get rebates in some provinces. Closing costs in the United States, usually higher, 2% to 5%, depending on the state. You may also need to pay escrow fees, HOA dues, appraisals, and even prepaid taxes up front. Property taxes in the US, these can be three to five times higher than Canada, depending on state and country. In Canada, property taxes are lower overall, but rising. This means that even if the purchase price is lower in the US, your ongoing costs might be way higher. Realtors, offers, and negotiation rules. In Canada, real estate agents often represent only one side, buyer or seller, though multiple representation is legal. In the US, dual agency is common, though that has changed and you do need somebody on both sides. Offers are submitted with no back and forth verbal negotiations. It's all in writing. You can't see the offer of others in a bidding war. It's a blind process. Verbal negotiations are more common. You may hear, "They countered at this" over the phone. In some states, offers are open. You can see what others are bidding. Canadian buyers often struggle when moving to the US because it feels less formal. And US buyers in Canada are often frustrated by the lack of transparency in the bidding. Legal processes, lawyer versus title company. In Canada, you need a real estate lawyer to close a deal. They review the contract, handle title transfer, and distribute funds. In the US, a title company typically handles closing. You may not need a lawyer at all in some states. Pros of the US method: faster and cheaper closing, more automated. Pros of the Canadian method: greater legal protection, more hands-on due diligence. Home inspections and appraisals. Home inspections. In both countries, these are common, but many Canadian buyers waive them in bidding wars. In the US, inspections are more protected by state law and often built directly into the offer with mandatory periods. Appraisals. In Canada, appraisals are ordered by the lender, not the buyer. In the US, buyers may hire the appraisal, but the lender still must approve. Foreign buyers and investment rules. Canada has restricted foreign ownership in many areas as of recent laws. This was done to cool the market. Foreigners can't buy in many cities unless they meet residency criteria. The US is more open to foreign investment in real estate. No citizenship requirement. Some states have rules, but it's generally easier to buy as a foreigner. You'll just face higher taxes and potential financing hurdles. So ironically, it's often easier for Canadians to buy US property than the reverse. Buying a home, lifestyle versus strategy. Here's the most overlooked point. In Canada, real estate is seen as a long-term investment, plus security. In the US, many treat it more like an asset class for cash and growth. Canadians often buy one home and live in it for 15 to 20 years or more. Americans may buy, sell, refinance, flip, or rent every few years. Neither is better, just different. If you're a Canadian thinking about buying in the US or vice versa, here's what I tell my clients. Understand the tax impact, especially for rentals and capital gains. Speak with a cross-border accountant before making a move. Don't just compare home prices. Compare long-term costs. Make sure you have legal and real estate professionals on both sides of the border. And most importantly, buy for your goals, not for hype. So what's the biggest difference between buying in the US versus Canada? It's not the homes. It's not even the prices. It's the mindset, the rules, and the strategy behind each market. Canada is more cautious, more regulated, and more stable. The US is more flexible, more competitive, and more profit-driven. Know which one fits your goals and build your plan around that. If you're considering buying a cross-border and want my cross-border buying checklist, comment cross below and I'll send to you for free. It walks you through financing, legal steps, tax considerations, and hidden costs most people miss. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss next week's video on how to invest in real estate as a Canadian without owning property.